Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Eat, Pray, Faith podcast with Dr. Tracy. That's me, and I'm so glad you're here. Today, we're going to be talking about supporting your Ozempic journey and the things to do and not to do to help you be healthier in this journey. I think from my last podcast, everybody probably knows my current stance. When this particular peptide prescription hit the market, I was very much against it as I listened to all of the media kind of scare people with the side effects that were happening. And while I do validate and say that those side effects are and were happening, I don't necessarily think it's from the peptide itself, but from the misuse and over prescribing of this peptide. Additionally, I also think that it's an unsupported protocol. And we're going to talk about that too, because, when you take something that's going to mimic something in your body and create a metabolic pathway, either speeding it up or slowing it down, nutritionally, that's going to have a requirement. Also, biochemically, it's going to have a requirement. So we need to talk about what are those things. So in my last podcast that I did with Nikki Raymond, better known as Nikki Fit, functional nutritionist, she works a lot with these injectable peptides at the current facility that she's at. And she had a lot to say about, how she supports clients. And I think there's a couple of things that we just need to throw on the table today. Number one, there's no shame in getting healthy. I mean, there are poor ways to do it, right? And those poor ways usually start out with lower numbers on the scale and things like that. But in general, you end up in worse health. However, if you're trying, that's at least more than most people are doing right now. So congratulations. Second, there's a better way to do this. If you are taking a semaglutide product like Ozempic or Wegovy, or another GLP1 agonist or a GIP. And we're going to talk about what those are as well. So today I'm going to talk about what are these medications. Also, what does the medication do in your body? How does it work and function? What other types of GLP-1 agonists are there on the market? You may not know what a GLP-1 agonist is. You might just know it by the brand name, Ozempic, Wegovy, et cetera. What's wrong with the current dosage and protocol, from my personal opinion? Also, I think from the massive side effects that we're seeing out there. And what should we be doing and asking if you're on this Ozempic journey of your healthcare professional that is walking with you? And if they do not have answers for you, seeking out the right people that can support you. As for a healthcare professional, what can you do to support people that are on this journey? I mean, guys, it's here to stay. It's predicted that within a few years, 30% of the population will be utilizing this medication. So what are you going to do about it? Are you going to sit back and post on social media about how bad it is? Or are you going to step up and help people understand how to support themselves through this journey, how to ask the right questions, how to do the right nutrition plan, how to do the complementary protocol, how to do the right strength training and exercises that will support their body, and teach them an exit strategy? Because right now, people are being told that they can never come off this medication. I personally don't think that's true. And, besides just having a new kind of look at this, because I do utilize peptides in my practice, oral peptides in nutraceutical form. I am not licensed to prescribe these, nor am I looking to be. I'll leave that to the medical professionals. But what I can offer, and other people like me, is the complementary protocols around the prescription. And I think that is what complementary and alternative and integrative care is about. Most people walk into my practice on 3 to 7 medications. I don't say to them, oh my gosh, this is terrible. You need to stop these right away. Number one, that would be illegal. Number two, that's not beneficial to the patient or the client. They are learning. They're in a process of learning, and they're in my office because they've made a conscious step to do so. Shaming them and making them feel bad about things that they did in order to function prior to knowing better and doing better is not in the best interest of the person in my chair. And I feel the same way about this whole push on semaglutide and these GLP-1 medications. So, with that said, I want everyone here to listen, whether you're on an Ozempic journey, semaglutide journey, Wegovy, whatever you're using, or you're a healthcare professional looking at this from the sidelines and saying, you know what, this isn't good, but you can't really put your finger on why it's not good, or maybe you know some things about why it's not good. And there's all kinds of information out there. What I will tell you is there's not enough information out there yet to make a decision. And I saw a recent video about a gentleman talking about dysbiosis of the gut. That means that you have imbalance in your digestive system of your good bacteria. Well, here's the thing. If you pay attention to Natasha Trinev, who's known as the mother of probiotics in our industry, there is no good or bad gut bacteria. There's opportunistic gut bacteria. And when one is out of balance, another one will be opportunistic to take over that terrain. Case in point is in every Parkinson's patient that they tested their microbiome, their gut bacteria. Akkermansia was extremely high. Is there a cause and effect then that Akkermansia creates or causes Parkinson's? Nobody knows. There needs to be more studies. But what about these GLP-1 probiotics that are on the market that are promoting Akkermansia? No one's going after them. Are they doing a bad thing or are they not? I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying when things are done well and in balance with God's natural function and bioavailability of things, the body responds well. When things are out of balance, overprescribed, when you're undernourished, the body does not do well. That's simple common sense. So I want you just to take everything in your mind and just set it on the shelf. You can pick it back up after this if you don't want to listen, or follow, believe, whatever the things that I'm putting out there. That's okay. But I do think that scare tactics and fear tactics are wrong in our industry. And we need to find out more and ask harder questions as consumers and healthcare professionals. This thing hit the market so fast that we didn't even have time to react. All of a sudden, we had a type 2 diabetic medication being thrown into the weight loss industry, and every med spa jumped on it. And all of a sudden, they're pumping out super high doses. There's no complementary protocols. There's no discussion of nutrition. There's no discussion of exercise. People are malnourished. Their hair's falling out. They're getting gastroparesis. Well, yeah. And here's the other thing. If you are metabolically sick, you already have slow digestion. You already have fatty liver. You already have pancreatic dysfunction. You already have dysbiosis of the gut. But when you starve yourself and you overprescribe a medication, it's going to get worse. So everybody listening here, everyone, including myself, can do better in our health. So I'm going to give you some ways to do that, whether or not you're taking a prescription or you're not. And so the off-labeling of this medication can be getting out of hand. The prescribing of this medication can be too much in the industry. But we as healthcare professionals can step in the gap and help people. We can support people. We can educate people to an exit strategy. So please at least do that part as a healthcare professional. If you're a person on this journey, please stay tuned because we're going to talk about some strategies for you. And I also have a form in the show notes that you can fill out as a healthcare professional to learn how to do this, to learn the protocols that I and Nikki Raymond put into place for people on this journey. And as a layperson, you can have a care call with one of us or one of my team members to help support you. We need to help you through this. I had a girl the other day that I just saw. She has been on Ozempic for a year with absolutely no nutritional guidance, no exercise, no complementary supplements, no complementary nutrient protocol, nothing. And she's wasting. And now she feels, although lighter, she doesn't feel good now. Well, yeah, because you're starving. So caloric restrictive diets, in conjunction with over medication is not going to result in good outcomes, not in the long term. You may get that vanity effect and you might be like, hey, I lost weight. I feel better. Some things are better because I lost weight, because that's common sense too. However, if not done properly, the long term is going to be the issue. All right. So let's get into the nitty gritty of what we're going to be talking about today. So, semaglutide, which is a peptide and a medication, was once associated primarily with diabetes type 2. And, recently, like I said, it's hit the market for this whole weight loss industry. It was put out in mega high doses. There was no support around it. And that's where we are. So if we look at the two types of semaglutide, which I'm going to focus on semaglutide today. And like I said earlier, there are different types of medications that people are using on the market. One will mimic a glucagon like peptide one called GLP1, which is what semaglutide does. And the other types of medication will mimic GIP, which is gastric inhibitory polypeptide. Today, I'm going to focus on semaglutide, Ozempic, because that seems to be the one that everybody knows. So Ozempic is FDA approved, glucagon like peptide 1, GLP-1. And it is an agonist used to initially treat type 2 diabetes. It was now also off-labeled for overweight and obesity. Wegovy is another brand, FDA approved solely for the treatment of chronic weight management in adults and obesity for overweight and comorbid conditions, such as type 2 diabetes. Both are meant to be used in conjunction, and this is what they script out, of a low-calorie diet and regular physical activity. Now, that's about as much as you get from most of these places. Hey, cut your calories and, exercise. Well, if that was easy and people knew what to do, don't you think everybody would do that right now? Don't you think we'd all be like, oh, I just need to cut my calories and exercise and I'll be healthier? Yeah. Says no one. No one's doing it. That's why we're all overweight. That's why people have more metabolic issues. That is why people have more chronic disease, and not just one chronic disease, but up to 2 to 4 chronic diagnosed diseases per individual. So it's not that easy. We cannot just throw this stuff out to the market and be like, good luck, Chuck. I hope that your weight loss journey is swell. That's not going to work. So semaglutide is actually the active ingredient in both of these medications. And, for the purpose of this podcast, like I said, we're going to stay there. So how does this actually work? Well, semaglutide, when it was originally developed, was to improve glycemic control in adults with type 2 diabetes, which means when you have type 2 diabetes, there's a few things that can be going on. One, your pancreas doesn't necessarily produce enough insulin, and insulin is the hormone that's going to go out and regulate the blood sugar in your blood. It's going to promote that it gets pushed into cells. Now, you could have a blood sugar issue because you're low in insulin. That GLP-1 pathway is not active, which actually starts in your gut. And we're going to talk about gut health later as part of the program when you're doing these type of medications. But also this GLP-1 is the hormone that stimulates your pancreas to release the insulin. And since all forms of semaglutide and even compounded semaglutide are GLP-1 receptor agonists, they act like GLP-1 by binding to your body's GLP-1 receptor. So effectively, it increases your insulin production, and this helps your body keep blood sugar levels within a healthy range. Now, when you combine that with a low-calorie diet and not enough things, and you're not exercising, well, when glucose goes down, which is your first energy, your body's going to look for secondary energy stores, such as fatty acids, which is why it's going to create a weight loss mechanism. But your body's not dumb. Over time, it's going to feel like you're starving. And some of the other things with these medications is that they reduce hunger. They give you this increased feeling of fullness, so you don't have an appetite. So as Nikki always says, when you do eat, you got to make it count. And so when you're looking at these people that are using this product, or if you're using it, when you're eating, you have to make it count. And so you can't eat a very small potato. Or I've heard of a girl that was was a GLP-1 user. She was eating Skittles and, eventually her hair fell out. Well, you can't live on a diet of Skittles and use this medication. It does reduce food cravings and it does reduce energy intake. So if you're over prescribing something at doses that are too high and just cookie cutter for the whole industry, and you're going to have a reduced appetite with a recommendation of eat less, and you're going to be full all the time, and then you're going to have reduced food cravings in general and low energy, well, you're not going to feel good after a period of time. So it can delay gastric emptying. That means when the food leaves the stomach and goes to the intestines when overprescribed. But remember what I said, if you have metabolic dysfunction, you already have delayed gastric emptying. That's the whole thing of metabolic dysfunction. Your metabolism is not metabolic function. Metabolic function is a compilation of how your organ systems and functions communicate and work together so that your body actually can do. It can overcome, it can detox, it can assimilate, it can filter. What happens is a slower metabolic rate when your body can't do that, and an excess of toxins, i.e., fat cells inflaming, getting bigger because they're loaded with toxins, because your immune system is stimulated. And your fat cells are responsible for your immune system as well as your white and red blood cells. And a lot of people demonize fat, although it's very, very important. So there are risks associated with this medication, with any medication. There's risks. There's risks with anything. But we're so hyper-focused on this one because of the abuse of it in the industry, not because of actually the medication itself. I mean, everyone seems to love ivermectin right now. It's a medication, but if you use too much of it, you're going to have a side effect, I guarantee you. Same thing with hydroxychloroquine. So just keep that in mind. So side effects can be nausea, vomiting, constipation, gastrointestinal reactions, hypoglycemia. Obviously, that means low blood sugar. So if you're on a low calorie diet, your dose is too high and you inject it once a week, you have no control over the next 6-7 days. It's in there. So this whole cookie cutter, low calorie, no protocol around it, not really a safe administration of a medication. It's like just throwing it out there with no recommendations. Here you go. So these are injectables in this form, and there is a protocol that's out there of how to start people. That's not my scope. I'm not even going to talk about that. But what I will say is starting people where they are starting people is leading to the side effects, and starting people where they're starting people and not complementing with the right amount of protein, the right exercise program, the right complementary supplementation, the right protocol for lifestyle, nutrition, hydration, movement, sleep, elimination, emotional, spiritual wellness, people are sick. They're not feeling well. And the other thing that's coming out is they tell you have to be on this forever, and they continually increase the dose. Because with something like Ozempic, your body can build up a tolerance to it. Now, trizepatide has hit the market, which is another medication, and it's having less side effects. So again, not my scope really to talk about all the pharmacological impact of it. But there are articles you can read, studies you can read, really important. What I will say is how we got here in the first place is because the allopathic community in general, not everybody, but the majority are not trained in lifestyle medicine. They're not trained in nutritional foundational health. They're not trained in supplementation, and they're not trained in complementary modalities. Do you know a physician that can tell you the ins and outs of supplementation and all the ingredients on the label and what they do? Do you know a physician that can give you a full fitness program, a resistance training program? Do you know a physician that understands complementary modalities such as red light or infrared saunas? If you do, consider yourself lucky. And if you are that physician, thank you very much for extending your knowledge. Thank you. You are a service to the community. Thank you. But if you're not, then throwing this medication out without that knowledge is not doing no harm. I'm sorry, but it's not. And so that's where complementary and integrative care comes in, where you can work with people like me, like Nikki, to complement your current journey in this or your practice. Because we have to rely on each other as healthcare professionals. People are too sick today to do 100% supplementation or 100% medication. There has to be a complementary space. There has to be. So nobody would say no to an antibiotic. Most people, probably 99%, if you had a really bad bacterial infection and you've tried all the natural things, of course you might go get that medication. If somebody is having a psychotic event and needs a medication for mental health, until you figure out the gut dysbiosis, until you figure out the underlying infection, until you figure out the underlying trauma, there's no shame in that. You have to be functional. So we need to stop being so self-righteous as people and practitioners, including myself. And I've had a very humbling lesson with the Lord lately of meeting people where they are, like Jesus does. Nobody knows the full Bible when you first become a Christian. And we certainly don't know Jesus and who he really is unless you read his word. So that requires study. And I can certainly say that Jesus met me where I was when I was in a very low opposition to God place in my life. And he never required anything except to follow him. And so now into my journey of being a Christian, 6 years, maybe more, I don't know. I have really learned who he is. And I'm so grateful that he met me where I was. If we're going to be the hands and feet of Jesus, we have to do that in this community too. So let's talk a little bit about these GLP-1 medications and some of the names that are currently available. Wegovy is semaglutide, Ozempic, semaglutide, Rybelsus, I think that's how you pronounce it, is a semaglutide. Mounjaro is a tirzepatide. So is Zepbound, and then there's a few others, but they're probably the top. Now, financially, these are not cheap. I mean, these go from $1,300 a month to more. You can get some, depending on the dose, at cheaper amounts, but, you know, it is a financial burden. And so when people talk about natural health with me and that it's a financial burden, you know, the reason that we're here is because we've been programmed to think that we should pay this much for prescription medications, but not invest that month in the prevention of disease. It's like we wait to get sick to put a value on health, and then we'll pay anything to get out of it. And the reason that we're in this situation is because, like I said, you know, the medical establishment, the majority of it, is not equipped to deal with people's metabolic dysfunction. They're just not. They can't get you out of it. They can only medicate your symptoms away. Now, this particular drug can help with mitochondrial regeneration. It can help with decreasing inflammation. It can do those things because it's a GLP-1 agonist drug. But when it's misused, abused, and overprescribed, it's going to become a detriment. And when it's surrounded by malnutrition and wasting, it's going to become a detriment. So GLP-1 medications, as I said, they mimic the glucagon-like peptide, GLP-1, and then you have the gastric inhibitory polypeptides, which are GIP, as in Paul. So there are risks, but many GLP-1 drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy, they act by binding to that GLP-1 receptor. That results in the effects of natural GLP-1 pathways. Medications like Mounjaro or Zepbound are unique that they bind to the GLP-1 and GIP receptors. So that results in a combined effect. So if you're using something like that and you're having these gastric inhibitory issues, you might want to consider going back to your practitioner and saying, hey, can I try something different, like tirzepatide? So again, all of this stuff just so you have better awareness of what you're putting into your body and why. So I'm going to give you some key takeaways here for these GLP-1s and GLP-1/GIPs. You know, they are effective in managing blood sugar levels and reducing body weight and impairing appetite. but they are best when supported with lifestyle changes. Tirzepatide may be more effective than injectable semaglutide, but there's more research that needs to be done there. Now, effective meaning what? Weight loss? Potentially. Effective in what other ways? I don't know. Long-term use without support is going to be a problem. Weight regain is common after you discontinue these. So guys, if I can emphasize so much right now that you need an exit strategy, so much right now, in the show notes is a form. If you just click that, it's free. It's totally free. Just click it, fill it out. That's going to go to my team, and we're going to give you a call back with a support plan to help you. I can't emphasize that enough. Practitioners, that same form. If you fill it out and you want to learn how to do this, just put your name and then skip to the end. Just put in that you're a healthcare professional and then skip to the end and we'll get back to you. So we are going to try to help the industry overall, whether you're a consumer of this or you're a practitioner supporting this. Guys, you don't have to be a fitness expert, a nutrition expert, a GI expert. You don't. You can help your clients with simple things that we have learned that we will help teach you. So a lot of things to note on this. Now, one of the other topics I wanted to talk about is, are there alternatives to these GLP-1? And so are there some natural GLP-1 agonists that you can use? Absolutely. And supplementation, which are great. Just eating more fiber will help you. Eating more lean protein will help you. Eating more healthy fats will help you. My big thing and big push when I work with someone on Ozempic or another semaglutide product is that you really want to emphasize the activity of the GLP-1 agonist medication at lower doses. It's going to be safer, right? So they need to have the conversation with their practitioner about lowering that dose or microdosing it and adding the foods that are really going to increase your GLP-1 levels. I mean, the easiest one are eggs. I mean, these are such a rich source of protein and monounsaturated fats. They play a significant role in GLP-1 secretion. So just by adding them can be beneficial to this pathway, to regulating blood sugar. I mean, isn't it amazing how God set it up that eggs have become the breakfast food? Why would that be? When you get up and you have a break of your fast overnight, that the Lord has put it in our minds that we eat eggs for breakfast so that our GLP-1 agonists are activated and the right blood sugar by putting protein and something that's going to promote this is happening. I mean, putting collagen in your coffee can help with GLP-1 agonists. Nuts can increase GLP-1s through their protein, fiber, and fat content. So don't be afraid there. Avocados, another one. Good fat. Olive oil, another one. And then having things like vegetables, like Brussels sprouts, broccoli, all the things that are high in fiber, they really help. So people that do take in higher proteins and higher fats with enough available fiber found that they had a better journey along their Ozempic journey or semaglutide journey. So I realize that you may not feel hungry if you're taking this, but you have to think of food as fuel at this point. Even if you're eating small amounts of food, you can't eat a lot at one time, eat more often. Use protein shakes, but get it in. And we normally recommend 1 gram of protein per body pound. Now, that may not be attainable with just food. You might have to supplement it with nutrition shakes. And I have tons that I recommend. I love the whole line of Nutritional Frontier shakes. You can find that on my site. I'll put the link in the show notes. But you have to supplement. It's really important. So just remember, guys, this particular medication, we as consumers and we as healthcare professionals, as always, can swoop in and be like, hold the phone. we need to look at this a little bit more, and we need to know how can we help people with this exit strategy. Now, some people might say, like, what are some natural GLP-1 supplements, right? And there's a lot of them out there. I think I mentioned prior to Acromantia is hot and heavy as a GLP-1 agonist. That is a probiotic bacteria in your gut that's naturally occurring there, just like peptides are naturally occurring. And so those probiotics are now being studied by increasing that. Can it help increase your GLP-1 naturally? And they're finding that it can. Again, not enough studies out there to make an educated decision overall in a blanket statement. There's a lot of people that are coming out against utilizing that. But my whole point is that there's products out there that you can use, that are safe and effective and can give you that little boost that you're looking for. And you can utilize them along with your current journey on semaglutide. I would, however, talk to your practitioner about that. And I would absolutely 100% have a coach when it comes to doing those things. So some other supplements that are valuable, psyllium. So psyllium hulls, which can be great for constipation too, right? But you have to have a lot of hydration with that. But it's a soluble fiber that's fermented in the gut, and it helps produce short chain fatty acids that stimulate GLP-1 release. So that's something. Berberine. This is actually a plant-based compound that can increase GLP-1 activity, and that helps regulate appetite and blood sugar levels. So you can use things like berberine. Ginseng. This helps stimulate GLP-1 secretion, and it can reduce hyperglycemia effects and contribute to an anti-diabetic effect. And then good old curcumin, right? The oldies but goodies that we don't put in enough. So curcumin can be a GLP-1 stimulant by working through the same pathways that improve glucose absorption. So again, when you reduce inflammation, which is the magic of curcumin, systemically it works in so many pathways, but just by putting it in, if you reduce inflammation cellularly, you're going to have a better chance of the receptor sites on the cells being able to connect to the glucose and pulling it in as energy. When you have inflammation, your cells are inflamed. And when your cells are inflamed, they can actually cover the receptor sites of your cells for many different things, not just glucose, but nutrients such as fatty acids, such as iron, vitamin D. So a lot of different things like that. So again, more protein, healthy fats, vegetables, that soluble fiber, very important. You can use berberine, you can use psyllium, you can use curcumin, you can use ginseng. So a lot of things like that. Now, let me talk to you a little bit about your exit strategy, because there's probably nothing on the market right now kind of giving you the handout saying, here's how you are going to wean down. First of all, you're going to have to talk to your practitioner or whomever is prescribing. Now, again, this is not my scope, so I can't give you recommendations on prescriptions. However, if you can find somebody in your industry that uses a compounded form of the medication you're using, that's better. Because you can adjust the dosage. And Nikki here, who I work with, she has the capability of getting you to a practitioner like that. So if you need help with that, reach out. Second, if you're going to formulate an exit strategy, you need to start now, and just know that your exit strategy may be slower than others. And I can't give you a solid. I can't say, hey, you're going to do 3 months this way and it's going to work. I don't know. I don't know where you are nutritionally, because now what we're probably going to be working with is actually a nutritional deficit that you're in. And so we're going to have to rebuild your deficiencies. We're going to have to rebuild your metabolic rate. And then at that point, you can start to talk to your practitioner about decreasing the medication that you're on. If you cold turkey stop this, as with any medication, I don't think that's wise. And unfortunately, that's kind of been what's happening. People can get it on their insurance for a period of time and then they're just cut off completely. And then they gain back all the weight. The metabolic function is actually lower because you've lost so much muscle mass because you've wasted away on a low calorie malnutrition type of program. And you've done no strength training during that time. So starting now is when you have to implement these changes. And if you're overwhelmed by this podcast and you don't know what to do, again, there's a form. Fill it out and we will give you a call back and we will help you on this journey. It's not as hard as you think. I promise you. It's not. We're not going to give you big meal plans and all the things. We're going to give you some protein goals. We're going to give you some strength training goals. And we actually can handhold you through that if that's your desire. So please know that this form is free to fill out and it just gives us where you are now so that when we do call you back, we're going to give you a better journey, a better strategy. Even if you say to us, hey, I want to stay on this forever. Okay, that's up to you, but you still need to be supported. You still need the things that are going to keep you healthy if you're going to stay on it forever. But if you are that person that is on it and you don't want to be on it forever, you financially can't afford it, you're having too many side effects, I will tell you, you will benefit from more protein, you will benefit from exercise, you will benefit from knowing what questions and what conversations to have with your practitioner. It's okay for you to have those conversations as a consumer. That doctor works for you. And if you've had no support, let me just tell you how sorry I am that you took a step towards a healthier you. And it unfortunately was thrown upon you in a way that was not as healthy as you wanted it to be. And if you're a healthcare professional and you're utilizing this in your practice, that is fine. Please ask better questions of the model. Please ask better questions of your clients and patients. Please put them on a support protocol. And if you don't know how to do that, please fill out the form and reach out and we will get you set up on that as well. So I just wanted to come in and touch base here today to let everybody know there's no shame in your health journey. You know, we have all been victim to the slim fast diet. You know, we have all been victim to things that hit the market hot and heavy, and our friend's friend is getting great results and everybody wants to jump on it. And sometimes you come to a point where you're just so disappointed and hopeless in everything that you've tried and you found something that worked. And I'm going to tell you that's okay. And if this is going to stay on the market, guys, as healthcare professionals or even consumers, then let's do better. Let's support the people that are doing it, support yourself if you're taking it, and be a beacon of light in the darkness, right? As we always are, and meet people where they are. It can be highly an issue. It can, but it doesn't have to be. And you don't have to be on it forever. There is an exit strategy to this journey. So thank you for tuning in. God bless you and keep you. And don't forget to check out the forum in the show notes. Don't forget to pass this to somebody that can use it. This is hot and heavy in the industry. You probably know somebody that's on it. And again, this is not to shame anybody. I am here to walk it with you guys because I had people walk with me when I was lost and found Christianity. And if I would have had people chastising me at that time, I probably would not have come to Jesus. So please know that if anything I ever said in the past offended you on this journey, my apologies. I've had kind of like the scales removed from my eyes on this. Not that, you know, I'm saying everybody needs this. I am not saying that. I don't think it's for everybody. I personally don't use it. That's not I'm better than you or I'm worse. It's just a choice. But I'm here to support you. So, all right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, share it. God bless.